Hello and welcome to Midday Discuss, your daily program where we take a deep dive into pressing issues shaping our nation. Hello and welcome to Midday Discuss, your daily program where we take a deep dive into pressing issues shaping our nation. I am Samuel Odi. Today, we turn our focus to a topic that goes to the heart of our democracy, electoral reforms. Nigeria's electoral act is meant to provide a fair, transparent, and credible electoral process, but despite reforms introduced in 2022 Electoral Act, there are still contentious areas, loopholes, inambiguity, and what many call gray areas. From inconsistency in technology used during elections to conflicting timelines for party primaries to questions around INEC's powers and judicial interpretation. These gray areas have often left voters, politicians, and even electoral officials in confusion. So what exactly are these gray areas? We'll be finding out. How are they affecting our democracy? We'll also crack that out today. And what can be done to address them before the next general election? That's a very big question. And we'll try to get to the root of this major talking points. But before we get into all of that, the 2022 Electoral Act brought some important innovations like electronic transmission of results, earlier party primaries, and changes in campaign finance limits, but critics argue that certain sanction remains either unclear or open to manipulation. Some of the most debated gray areas include Section 64, interpretation of electronic transmission of results versus manual collection. Now, a little bit of more explanation needs to be done. Detailed information needs to be given, and proper explanation needs to be brought to the notice of Nigerians in this light. Meaning, if election is going on as individuals are voting, is it being updated automatically, or later on we still have the manual system of imputing in the beavers before it gets sent to the INEC? So we'll be having that conversation, and also we'll be looking at the Act also lack clarity on what is transmitted directly or electronically being transmitted, meaning does it mandate real-time uploading, like I rightly mentioned earlier, or still allows manual collation? And then there is a legal uncertainty regarding whether physical results or those transmitted via INEC system hold precedence during collation. That's in this angle. Now we'll be looking at it from the aspect of after the whole election. We see a lot of times political parties, different individuals can stand and say, no, the election was this in this location, was that in this location. Now, what evidence, what holds precedence in the court of law? Is it the manually imputed ones or the beavers, now the one that was uploaded? Now, we're still going to find out if it's being uploaded automatically or is being uploaded manually. So now those are the conversations we'll be having today. And also, the Act does not define procedures for results and declared involuntarily contrary to the law or under duress. So there's just a lot. Even in Section 29, subsection 5, candidates nomination disputes and timeline for court cases. On this note now, the INEC in this current Act provided 21 days time frame, a window that you have to gather whatever, if you feel that the election was rigged and, a candidate didn't actually get what he was supposed to get, or you didn't win the polling unit that you were meant to win, the court, and the INEC in this act has provided a 21 days time frame to be able to, provide all the evidence required before the case, proceeds and, take different tones in terms of, advancing further with the case. So we'll be having all of this conversation, but before we get right into that, we'll be going on a quick break, and when we return back, I'll be introducing my guest who would help us extract most of these talking points. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Midday Discourse on Global Television, and I am Samuel Odi. All right, to help us unpack these issues, I have with me the national president, not too young to perform, Comrade James Ezema, who is also a political analyst. Mr. James, thank you so much for joining us on Midday Discuss today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, all right, let's Electoral Reform Act, and looking at it, we've seen, and looking at the act, we've seen a whole lot of loopholes and some angles that politicians can be able to look around and maneuver. And also we saw some angles where in the act that there was no provision for would I say punishments for staffs of the of INEC, just in case there is any election malpractices. So we are going to look at all of those. But before we get to that part, which section of the Electoral Act do you think are the most problematic or open to multiple interpretation?
First of all, by the judgments that emanated from the 2023 elections, we have seen that INEC guideline itself cannot be said to be law, so to say. So if that is the case, it then means that whatever INEC is doing in terms of regulating the electoral process by way of churning out guidelines that will ensure that people follow certain processes to get through the electioneering process, they are not something that can be said to be legal. And that is the danger that we created in 2023. Our legal system, the judiciary created that problem in 2023. And as it is now, the only way to deal with it, first of all, because that's where the issue now is. Yes. The only way to deal with it is to amend the Electoral Act and specifically stating that INEC guidelines are law, that they have the force of law. If not, there is the manipulation is there. So people can always go to court and then cite the judgment of the Supreme Court and tell you that INEC guideline is not a law. Then the other danger too is when it comes to issue of electronic accreditation.
Yes.
Now the courts have said that the electronic accreditation is not, you cannot use it as something that you can present as an evidence in court by the judgment that also came out from the 2023 elections. Yes. So it now means that if you are accredited biometrically, and at the end of the election process, if somebody now decides to go to court and say, oh, that because you use biometric this thing to accredit voters, the court should nullify the election will be nullified. So we have to go back again and now make a law.
Yes.
And write in black and white that biometric processes in election, they are legal. So the use of technology has to now be something that we are going to write in black and white. If we don't do it, then even the 2027 elections that people are even talking about will be in danger, because politicians will be the politicians that they are. So these are two very, very germane areas that we need immediate action as far as electoral reform is concerned. If we must, have a clear guide to 2027 general election, we must at this time be sure that the law is amended, that we have electronic transmission of results and biometric accreditation clearly written in black and white in the Electoral Act or in this current constitution amendment, so that we can be able to say that we are making headway in terms of electoral process that is transparent and will eventually be seen to be transparent. And then the other side of it is what you mentioned. You see, there is no clear provision that if an INEC official is, or a returning officer or an ad hoc staff is involved in malpractice, is only one person that have taken that challenge to take a returning officer to court, and that's the INEC Commissioner Mike Igini, who took it upon himself to say, no, this thing, let's try this thing out in court. And so there's no clear specified punishment for any INEC official or ad hoc staff that is involved in electoral malpractice. That, again, we have to write in black and white in the Electoral Act. If we don't, we will continue to have this back and forth. We just chant electoral reform. At the end of the process, we discover that one glitch will just come up and then everything is gone. So, and when you go to court, rather than the court, looking at issues based on merit, they will use technicalities to throw away the everything that someone who has been injured, so to say, it has come to be redressed. They throw everything away under the guise of some technicalities here and there. So such issues have to also be addressed in the law. That, look, when you are dealing with electoral matters, technicalities should be secondary. So they decide based on the core merit of the issue. Because if we don't, we will still be going round and round the way we are going. So these are three major issues that we have to deal with immediately if we must go into 2027 elections.
Okay, let's look at this angle now. You said technicality should be secondary, but with the fast rise of technological innovations now in a globe, we saw the elections in America, that some persons even from Nigeria don't need to travel to even vote. Now, if you are looking at that rapid growth now, how soon do you think, or how rapid do you think the INEC and also the judicial system need to fall in line to have these reforms actually being what is said it should be? Because from the standpoint now of a lot of Nigerians now, individuals are losing trust in our judicial system and also in INEC. So what can be done now to be able to give Nigerians that sense of belief that, yes, even if it doesn't go well, but the moment it gets to the judicial system, we would be able to get the actual results that we want?
Well, first of all, we have to deal with the areas that concerns the National Assembly. The National Assembly, they are there to make laws. And if they are ready to make these laws, they have to now look at the judgments of the courts, see areas that should be corrected. Like, we are now talking about continuous voters registration. Now, continuous voters registration, when does it stop? When does it start? And these are the things that have to be in clear black and white, so that it is not only whenever INEC is interested in continuous voters registration, they will now come up and say we are now starting continuous voters registration. So these are some of the things we have to clearly specify in law, so that at the end of the day, the Electoral Act will be clear on the date or how many days after the last election that the continuous voters registration should start. And if it is continuous voter registration, it should be continuous. It's not something that you will say that, or you give a timeline that within 1 month, if you didn't register. What of the person that is turning 18 the next month? You have denied the person the opportunity to vote in the next election. So what we need to do right now is that some of these things has to go back to the National Assembly, and then they have to do it timely. And then secondly, when you are looking at these electronic issues,
yes.
Now, why should we go and be printing ballot that is PVCs?
PVCs, yes.
When you can actually carry out a process that you just register online and you download your card.
Yes.
And you use it. So it's not, there's nothing, no rocket, it's not a rocket science. So why? Because in this country we like wastes, a lot of wastes. You waste money, print cards. The next minute, the card that you put is, some people that have been using their PVC, you will see that the thing has already wiped out. So you have to go and change it because you want to vote. So every 4 years you are changing PVC, either that it has been scratched or because of the quality of the print. And then these are something that we spend so much money to do. And then the quality is something that all of us, we have ID cards that we print here and there.
Yes.
But we know how the quality of what we print. That is not something that you can easily wipe away. But this one, you have, after few years, you have to go back. Either you renew it or you go and begin another process. And then sometimes the INEC itself is not even helping the issues, because most times you register. When you want to collect your card, you have to go there, queue, and then nobody to attend to you. You get frustrated, you go home. And then the next time you are coming, either they will tell you that, oh, the INEC have no resume. I have an experience where a friend wanted to collect his voter's card,
yes.
That he failed to collect in 2023. And then he has gone there severally to the local government office of the INEC. They said there's nobody to attend to him. There's the person that is in charge is not there. And these are some of the issues that we're talking about. How can we not have at least someone that will attend to people in some of these INEC offices, and when it comes to primary thing as voters card collection,
yes.
Until there is an announcement of a time and day, and then everybody will now have to cluster and come there and cause a lot of nuisance, and then before some people will get frustrated again and go home. So these are some of the issues that we have to deal with and see how, either by way of legislation, because Nigeria is such a political environment whereby everything has to be written in law, black and white. If it's not written, even the one that is written, they will go to court and they use some technicalities, they will bypass the law, and then they get whatever they want to get. So these are some of the issues. The human element in the election process is one of the key things we have to deal with, because no matter the kind of law you make, if the human element is not dealt with, there is no way these laws are going to be beneficial in the process that the electoral process we're talking about. The electoral reforms, we had it in the past.
Yes.
Remember that when INEC was facing the National Assembly, they actually defended electronic transmission of results.
Yes.
In fact, they were so vehement when they were confronted and said, look, what if there is no network in the place where you are uploading this result? They said, no, even if there's no network, they will upload. And once you get to where there is network, the thing will automatically, transmit. So that people got convinced, and at the end of the day, we still had a glitch. So you had the election on the same day. There was a glitch in one of the elections for upload, and then the other election, which all happened at the same time, there was no glitch. So you see the human element we are talking about. So something must have happened somewhere, and that is the kind of thing we are talking about. So even when it comes to the judiciary, you see that the courts too are being used as instruments by the politicians, to circumvent the law just because they want to be there. And these are some of the issues that has to do with human element. So let us begin to find a way to deal with some of these things so that we can actually make progress as far as elections are concerned in Nigeria.
As far as elections are concerned in Nigeria, we've seen recent disputes a lot of times, and that will result to going to court and all of that. Now, the court and the 2022 Electoral Act bill says it takes 21 days. Looking at a country, 21 days for you to gather all the evidence that you need. Now, looking at a country like Nigeria now, 36 states, and 774 local government areas and wards and all of that, millions and millions of polling units in the 36 states. Does 21 days, is it enough time based on how the system is? Is it enough time for any politician who feels there was a dispute during the election? Do you think 21 days is enough time to be able to gather all of those information that he will need, evidence that he will need to present to the court of law? Or do you think that this is one of the major gray areas that needs to be looked into?
First of all,
yes,
beyond the 21 days issue is what is it that is even admissible?
Okay.
It has to be clear.
Clear, yes.
It has to be clear what is it that is admissible. And then, some of these issues that has to do with election petition is that when you get to INEC and get certified through copy of whatever they have declared, and you on your part don't have any alternative result to prove them wrong, then at the end of the process, what are you going to the court to do? That's one thing. Then the issue of collation of evidence, you cannot beat a child and say the child should not cry.
Yeah.
Because if you it's also part of what is obtainable in our country. Because this is the only country whereby you as a citizen have to prove your innocence.
Yes.
That is what is happening in the country. You as a citizen have to prove your innocence at every point in time. But in other crimes, it is he who accuses is the one that should prove. But you are the ones to always prove your innocence. And that's the reason why sometimes you see that somebody is arrested, detained, and then the law enforcement agents will rush to the court and be bringing holding orders, just to keep the person perpetually while they are shopping for evidence, because it is left for you now to prove that you are innocent.
Yes.
While they keep you continually shopping for evidence. So that is exactly what we see in the time frame for a politician or somebody who feels that he has been shortchanged in an election process to collect evidence and tender them in court. It is not as simple as that, because the terrain are so difficult, and sometimes you have to get to some places, and then before you can be able to assess some of those evidence, and then you also have to now have time to review them. Before you can now even present them and know which of them is something that can help your case and which cannot help your case. So these are some of the issues. And then within the period of petition, the election petition sitting, you are also expected, they are also expected to conclude within certain period. Yes. But this thing should also be made in such a manner that nobody should be sworn in until the election petition is concluded. So if it is an election petition that will terminate at the Supreme Court, the person's swearing in date cannot come until after the termination of the case. So that you don't have people who are now using public funds to prosecute their personal case, while the other person on the other side is using his or her own personal fund to prosecute his case because he is not in government. So these are some of the things that we have to do so that we will reduce the probably they will have to also write it in black and white. And then there is so much to be talked about. Look at the issue of funding.
Funding, yes.
Funding is a big issue. And then you don't even know. Sometimes you don't know how much a political party has spent in an election cycle.
Yes.
And then that is not how it's supposed to be. It should be a public document. It should be something that they should be made to present publicly or presented to INEC, and INEC announces it. Say in this last election, Party A spent 10 million.
Yes.
Party B spent 20 million, and then we will know how much did they spend. And then if you bypass the process to spend money in a campaign in any other way, there should be punishment for that.
Yes.
Because that's the only way we can have an election process that will be fair and credible. So that at the end of this process, all these debates and argument about reforms, we will not just come back to the same place and start arguing about the same thing all over and all over again. This same thing we are talking about was the same reform that we were talking about in 2023. And then we got it to 2023, we got promises, we got everything, only for everything to be thrown away at the election petition tribunals. So that is, and here we are. We are back to square one.
Having the same conversation.
Having the same conversation.
But what do you think is your final take now on how these reforms now can actually be done and how it's going to affect the next general election positively?
You see, if we are able to get some of these things sorted out, get our biometric electoral system documented as law, I can tell you that people will have... See, Nigerians want to vote.
Yes.
If you see Nigerians want to vote. But the only problem that Nigeria have is because the system have made it difficult for them to believe that the system will give them what they want. If I have to go under the sun, under the rain to vote, I cast my vote. And at the end of the process, I will see that my vote was not counted. And then, if the vote was not counted, it will never count. And if it does not count, why should I vote? And that is the reason why most people are keeping away. They don't want to participate because they believe that the system has already. In fact, go to the streets and ask people. They will tell you that 2027 election results have been written. That is the belief on the streets. If you go and sample opinion, they will tell you, no, jump to 2027. They have already written the results for 2027. And that is the average Nigerian. That's how the mindset of an average Nigerian, and it's dangerous.
But how can we sanitize that now?
The only way is for us to go back to electoral reforms. And then not just electoral reforms, just by way of making us feel good, but this electoral reform should be part of our laws. And in clear terms, unambiguous, so that if the process is ongoing, we will know where it began and where it's going to end. And then we will be able to feel satisfied at the end of the day that we participated in an election process. And this election process has produced an expected outcome. Because it is when the outcome... let me tell you, Nigerians are not people that you can just bamboozle. If an outcome of an election produces the candidate that the will of the people aligned with, you will see nobody will complain. both parties, you see them, even if someone is going to court, the person is going to court probably because he believes that he has one man somewhere who will influence the judgment of the court in his favor. Not because he's going there because he knew that he did not fail the election. So that is where we are.
We've seen some people, just based on what you just said, we've seen some part of the country where they said they are not going to complain, they are not going to have any conversation in line with what's currently going on in the country because of the fact that they were not members, they were not in line with who, and that is not who is currently the president, is not who they voted for. So whatever reforms and laws he set in place, it has to stand, and then those that voted him will just have to stay on with that, with all of those, reforms that has been introduced. Well, we're looking away from that now. So moving forward now, like how can all of this now be? How can this sanitization now happen for a common Nigerian man going into 2027 as we wrap up?
First of all, it's not just about making laws. There should be a time frame for people to be sensitized about the laws. And that is why the National Assembly should do whatever they are doing in terms of amendment of the Electoral Act right now. They cannot, it's already late. What is already late because we have passed half of the year. So it is already late because we have to have time for both political parties, civil society, and INEC to sensitize people on some of these laws so that we can be able to boost trust in the system. Because one of the reasons why you see that sometimes people, a little protest turns violent and people descend on public properties and destroy things is because that's the only way they want to use and express their dissatisfaction with the system. The system is choking them, and they for a long time they don't have opportunity to come and speak. The little opportunity that is provided by any protest, they want to cash in on it and voice out their frustration and express maximum anger, and that is not good for a system because that is a time bomb waiting to happen.
All right, we hope that time bomb doesn't explode anytime soon. Electoral reform is not just about changing laws on paper. It's about building a system where every vote counts and people's will is being protected. Addressing these gray areas is essential if we want to strengthen our democracy and avoid future crises. I want to say a very big thank you to my leader, Comrade James Ezema, National President, not too young to perform. Thank you so much for joining us on Midday Discuss today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, we'll be going on a quick break, and then when we return back, we'll have our second conversation. Our guest is here in the live studios. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, and if you're just joining, this is Midday Discuss, and we're about to have the second conversation around innovations and technology. We'll be starting breaking down the issues shaping our world today. Technology is moving faster than ever, from artificial intelligence to genetic engineering, blockchain to autonomous vehicles. And but with every innovation comes with the question, just because we can. So should we? Yes, we can ask this question. Today we are asking, how do we balance promise of emerging technology with responsibilities to use them ethically? So emerging technologies hold immense potential to solve big challenges, curing diseases, improving connectivities, and driving economic growth. But without clear ethical guidelines, we risk creating tools that could invade privacy, worsen inequality, or even cause harm to the general public and all. Joining me live to have this conversation is Suleiman Isa, Commissioner of Information Communication Technology. Many thanks for joining us on today's edition of Midday Discuss.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so balancing progress, and it's looking at it now, looking at the tech world generally and innovations on how the speed of light, how things are moving. How well do you think individuals can be able to balance this progress and the risks attached to it?
Okay, balancing the progress and the attached risks is something we have to look at, especially for the upcoming generation. For example, a lot of people, if you ask them since when has ChatGPT been in vogue, they'll tell you 5-10 years. But actually, ChatGPT just became public in 2023. So you can see how our lives have overly depended on it within a short time. But then another issue about balancing it is most of these generative AI tools work based on data they've been trained on. So what is being fed to them is what they will now feed to others. So you talk of the upcoming generation that rely heavily on it now. With manipulation and code, they will now be relying on information that is not accurate. For example, you are asking ChatGPT about something in Nigeria, but somebody in China trained it about Nigeria. So how do you correct that? That's why we need to embrace them rather than avoid them. So a lot of people are afraid of AI. Instead of everybody to embrace it and start working with it and let's see how we can collectively improve it to help our lives. So I feel emerging technologies are things we have to embrace, not run away from or be afraid of. Yeah.
Okay, in terms of embracing them, like you rightly mentioned about China, someone in China being controlling and sometimes putting out wrong information about the current realities of things happening. So how can the next generation now get into adaptation and see how they can be able to navigate that, based on the fact that you have a boot camp for kids coming up shortly?
Okay, so it's not just about the next generation. The current generation, we need to save the data, the information. You have growing up things like Magana Jariche, Tales by Moonlight. All those stories, if you search for them online today, they are gone. So we have the current generation needs to collate all those data available and then now use that to train artificial intelligence models, so that way the upcoming generation would be able to adapt. So the training we are doing for children in my state this holiday is every third term holiday, that is the longest vacation, we do training boot camps for children. So we teach them robotics, Python programming, Scratch, and the basic computer appreciation. The reason we do that is so that they are not afraid of tech. And if you look at Nigeria currently, tech is one of the areas that you don't actually need a university degree to start into it. So it has become a vocation. So now technical colleges and all that are dwindling. But if you now start boot camps and introduce children to all this, you now start having a generation that is not afraid of technology, and they will become self-reliant using the skills they learn for technology.
Okay. We should be held accountable. Obviously, let's look at accountability and transparency. No, as this camp is coming up now, obviously you would also want to train these kids on how to be accountable and transparent. So, in the long run, now, how do you think and that can be sustainable? Is there a system that keeps tabs of what these kids do and also help them develop more?
Okay, one thing with technology is you don't try and be too restrictive, because it's when you restrict someone that he actually, the level of information that is available globally now, it's on the internet, is, how will I say, unquantifiable. So trying to mold them, you are killing their creativity. So all what we do is to guide them properly. For example, what's the difference between an ethical hacker and a Yahoo boy? They both have the same skills, but it's now a matter of choice and matter of resources. So by training them early and giving them this ethics and then giving them a means of sustenance and livelihood. For example, if a 10-year-old now can learn how to develop a game and have it on the App Store, and he's making a couple of $100 since when he's 10. Already he's getting money to pay for his university education. So at the end of the day, he wouldn't need to go into crime. But if he had learned that outside the system, then now with an external influence that you can use that skill to do X, Y, Z, then that same skill becomes a weapon. So part of the curriculum is definitely internet safety and cybersecurity awareness for the children also. So just trying to mold them to be ethical.
Okay. Yes. Okay, let's look at social and cultural impacts now, and how, looking at our African society and how the adaptation of technology has been. Okay, over the years now, the adaptation has been on a reasonable pace. Now, looking at it now on how parents handle situations like this, how might they imagine technologies widen the gap between the between rich and poor countries and also communities?
Well, for technology, to be honest, especially in our community, our society in Nigeria, the gap between the rich and the poor keeps widening. Because you find the rich, middle class and upper class, when a child is probably 2 years old, already he has an iPad.
Yes.
So he has that exposure. While you have, part of the reasons why we're having a lot of jam failure these days is some people actually know the chemistry, physics, and code, but once they see a computer screen, maybe that's the first time in about 18 years of their lifetime to touch a computer. So they are afraid of that unknown.
The computer-based.
Yes, so they can't do the CBTs. Because of that, they will fail the exam. So you see that gap is being created. So that's part of why we as a government have now decided, okay, let's start even introducing these children to computers and all that. Then for parents, some parents in the lower class, when a child says, I want to go to a computer school, for example, or a cyber cafe to learn something, what will you use it for? The fear of unknown. They don't know what it's all about. So that's why a lot of change management needs to be done.
Just like when you see a child back during our years and you say you want to play football, they'll say, go and read your book.
Go and read. But how much is a footballer's transfer fee? Now, with technology now, you just have one app and you're making nothing less than $100 a day, for example. Which white-collar job would pay that for you? So that advocacy needs to be done a lot.
Okay, let's look at cultural values and influence now on how society adopts or rejects new technology. Yes.
So like I said, the whole issue of cultural norms, again, is another issue. You have because we are importing technology. We are not building our local technology. So even our mother tongue is fading away. But if we had embraced technology for cultural purpose, nothing stops a child from nothing stops somebody from developing an app or an AI model that will teach our children Bagi, TV, our local dialects.
Yes.
And that way we are sustaining our culture. Today, how many apps would you go that you can change the language from English to Hausa or Yoruba?
Yes.
So all that divide, we're the ones creating it because we're afraid of embracing it. But if we embrace it and manipulate it to suit us, it would actually help our culture rather than alienate the culture.
All right, looking at that now, because that's actually the future of, you know, the society, and children are very, very key to the next generation. So how consistent do you think this boot camp for kids would run?
Okay, so for now, our ministry was created in 2023, so we are just a new ministry in Niger State. So we had the first boot camp in 2024 with just 45 children.
Okay.
Well, this year we are having with 2,000 children, but so that's the wide leap, and we only do it during the third term vacation season. It's the longest.
Yes.
So, but going forward, what we now want to do, Niger State has 25 local governments.
Yes.
If we can set up one computer training center with at least 20 computer systems in each of those local governments, then we can now start doing weekend programs.
Yes.
So we do a schedule. So even before you write your jam, just come and play with the computer. If you spoil it, it doesn't cost much to fix.
Yeah.
But at least that confidence is being built. In that generation. So after this experimental phase of 2000, we would now see how we would now move it so it will become maybe a quarterly or monthly activity.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Honorable Commissioner Suleiman, Commissioner of Information and Technology of Niger State, we want to say a very big thank you for taking our time to join us on Midday Discuss.
You're welcome.
All right, this is how much time will permit us to take on today's conversation on Midday Discuss. My name is Samuel Odi, and I'll see you again as we discuss further. Bye for now.